Hi, welcome back to the channel everyone. Today we are on site in a place called Woolpit Village, and that is based in Suffolk. And I'm here to tell you the tale, which is actually one of my favourites, is about the Green Children. Now there's two versions of this story. The earliest version was in 1198, and that was by a chap called William of Newburgh, who was actually a writer for the Yorkshire Chronicler. He didn't really believe the story at all, but after writing it, he had an influx of so many credible witnesses that come forward to say that this was actually true. So the other version told of this tale was by a chap called Ralph of Coggeshall, who was a monk, and he claimed to actually know Sir Richard de Cown, who was the knight in this tale. So Woolpit actually got its name from the wolf pits that were actually in the area during the time period. Now, one summer's day, there were people harvesting in the area, and they noticed that there was these two children that were stuck in one of the wolf pits. Now, one of the reapers came down to come and try and set them free or to lend help. After the villagers rescued the two visibly scared children, they noticed a few unfamiliar things about them. They noticed that they had an unfamiliar language, they had a strange tone of clothing, a very strange texture of clothing, but the most important thing was, although looking like children, their skin was green. So there was a knight called Sir Richard de Cown, and he actually took the children in. So seeing that the children were visibly very hungry, they've tried to offer them some food items like bread and various other things, but they just really weren't interested at all. So the children noticed some broad beans on the side and were visibly interested in that. So someone brought the pod of beans up. They weren't interested. As soon as they opened up the pod and revealed the beans, they grabbed them and shoved them down their necks. So they were very interested and lived on a diet of beans for months after. So eventually the two children were baptised, and this is thought that the locals wanted to know whether they were demons or not, so the baptism would clarify that or not. Now, after the baptism, the boy unfortunately passed away, but the girl continued to survive, but she was introduced with more things like bread and other things into her diet. She was also taught to speak English, and her skin faded back to a normal colour, a normal tone that resembled a Suffolk woman. So now that the girl knew how to speak English, she was actually asked where she actually came from, and she mentioned that it was a place called St Martin's Land, and apparently it was a very Christian area, and it had lots of churches, but it was always stayed quite dark. It was never lighter than just before dawn. So the girl actually carried on living with Sir Richard for years to come, and she actually went on to marry a chap from King's Lynn, which is in Norfolk, the next county on from Suffolk. So coming from a land where there's poor light could possibly explain the tone of skin that they had in green. Now, there are a few different theories of where the children came from. One of them was that they were extraterrestrials. One of them was that they were from an old ancient Flemish-speaking civilization in Britain. And another one was they could have been the Fae. Who knows? I want you to tell me where you think they come from. But they could just be a couple of kids who loved eating beans so much that their skin turned green. Who knows? Please tell me where you think they come from. I think they could have been possibly the Fae. Tell me what you think.